Hi, this is Daphne.
And I'm Ryan.
And we are going to review the Toni Morrison documentary called The Pieces I Am. Ryan and I saw this yesterday afternoon at the Nick in lovely downtown Santa Cruz. And it's one that we have been very excited to see. I only recently found out about it, maybe a week or so ago. But I was like, I was looking on Netflix for it, and I didn't realize it was brand new and would be at the theater. So I was very surprised to see it here and really excited to see it. Overall, we both enjoyed this film a lot, and we'll go into a little more detail individually. So Ryan, what did you think overall?
I enjoyed it. It was, I think, a great insight into not just Toni Morrison's work, but just her life and her iconicness. She's always been iconic to me. I think I started first reading Toni Morrison's work in my late teens, early 20s, and it was a time where I was really discovering a lot of African American writers and literature after kind of bulking against what I had been exposed to up to that part. So up to that point, so I was reading people like Toni Morrison and Langston Hughes and Alice Walker and Pat Parker and all those great names. But Toni Morrison's style of writing was always kind of different to me and sometimes difficult for me, and I would sometimes have to put her books down and come back to them, and I think I remember them saying that.
Right, yeah.
And I think I've read all of her books except Sula, maybe. I can't remember if I read that one. And I worked at Barnes & Noble when Paradise came out, and I remember, that was a big deal. I can still see the, stand in the middle of the store and, stacking the books on there, and what a big deal that was when that book came out because of Oprah's book club, and that was really big at the time. So it was kind of cool. She had been around for a while, but it was people were discovering her for the first time or rediscovering her for the first time. But her writing is it's visceral, it's very deeply descriptive, but also on a kind of emotional level, but also a very tangible level. And I don't know, it's not for everybody. Her writing style is definitely not for everybody, but it's something that I think is needed, and it's a conversation that just you don't see very often, and a reflection of people you don't see reflected very often in literature, or had not up until she started writing. So the film was great to me. I loved the fact that she was doing a lot of the talking and about herself and her experience rather than other people talking about her. I mean, they certainly had other people talking about her, but she was telling her own story, and I really like that you don't see too many biographical movies where it's coming from that person himself. So yeah, I learned a lot about her that I didn't know. I mean, I definitely knew she was a publisher or editor, but I didn't know she had edited for so many, like Angela Davis and just all these different people. I didn't know she had edited for them. So yeah, it's definitely a must-see. If you're a lover of writers, if you're a lover of Black history, if you're a lover of iconic women,
or all three.
It's definitely a movie I would suggest seeing, and definitely for young African American women, I think it's a really powerful portrait of someone we should all know about.
I agree. I also really enjoyed the movie. Most people probably don't know this, but I used to want to be a writer when I was younger, and I wrote quite a bit. I ultimately decided I wasn't good enough to make a living at it, and I'm really not the type to be a starving artist. That's just really not me. But I really enjoyed the documentary, and I've said before that when you watch a documentary, you want to walk away knowing something about the subject that you didn't know before. And I definitely feel like I learned, I didn't know that she had won the Pulitzer for literature. So that was a big thing for me. And she's definitely iconic, and she's very eloquent. I love the way she speaks. Not all the time great writers are not all the time the best to express themselves verbally in interviews, but she's very eloquent, very entertaining. The audience and we also, as part of the audience, laughed quite a bit throughout the documentary. I thought. And Ryan and I always kind of joke that when we go see these type of movies in Santa Cruz, it's always us and then the rest of the audience, typically older Caucasian people. So that's always very interesting to us. And some of the moments in the movie were a little bit awkward because Toni Morrison does not mince words. She talks about her history. She talks about the racism that she experienced in her career and in her life. And she definitely does not hold back. She's definitely a writer for everyone, even though, she's a Black writer because she is Black and she's a writer. But she says herself that she hopes everyone reads her books. And I think that everyone could get something out of her books. I have only read The Bluest Eye, I believe. Ryan has a copy of Paradise around here somewhere that I really, really want to read after hearing in the documentary how controversial it was, and it was banned in prisons because they thought it might incite a riot. Whenever something like that happens, that just makes me want to read the book more. So it's great publicity. So I definitely want to check that one out. I didn't read the book Beloved, but I did see the movie quite a few years ago. Oprah Winfrey was in it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but Ryan and I were talking yesterday that we'd like to rewatch the movie because at the time, I think we knew a little bit about the history that the movie was based on, but I felt like we learned more in the movie last night, and maybe we could watch it with a different perspective going forward. Again, a great movie. Check it out, especially if you are... the quote. Oh, there are some great quotes in the movies. Great quotes. But one of the quotes that stood out to me was when she said that when she was working as an editor at Random House, she was in a predominantly white male world, and she said that she did not find that intimidating at all. She said that, this is her words, I was smarter than them, and I was definitely more interesting than them. They were not interesting at all, and they were not as smart as they had been led to believe themselves. And I also thought it was interesting how when she talked about racism and how it's a white problem and that it's white people that need to address it and do something about it. But she also said something along the lines of, because if I take away your race, are you still smart? Are you still good enough? Are you still, this and that? What do you have left? And that was really interesting to me as well. I think that's something that not a lot of people, in general do when they are sort of looking at themselves. If you take away this big thing that's a part of you or what you think makes you you, then, is there anything left? So that was very interesting. So it was a very deep movie or documentary and entertaining. There was, I can't think of the one professor's name with the dreadlocks, but she was really entertaining.
Angela Davis was one of the people there.
Angela Davis was in there. Yeah. Oprah was in there. So it's about 2 hours, a little bit over 2 hours.
It didn't seem that long though.
No, it was very entertaining. So I didn't fall asleep, which was great. So I would give it a 5 out of 5 stars. I really am into documentaries, and as long as it entertains me, it tells me something about the subject I didn't know before, and makes me want to learn more about them and even read more of their work. In this case, she's a writer, so I want to read more of her books. So I think it hit everything on the head for me, and I would say 5 out of 5. What say you?
I'm tempted to give it a 4.5, only because I wanted more. I feel like I wanted more, and I wanted to hear her talk more, and I probably could have just listened to her talk for a while. So, but I will give it a 5 out of 5 also.
I wonder if she gives lectures. It would be awesome to go see her
in person. She used to travel around
lectures. So there you have it, the documentary, The Pieces I Am, about iconic writer Toni Morrison. Go see it. #Cinephile.